At our school here at Carramar, we believe in growing people. The curriculum is a platform or a context to do that in. So when a new curriculum arrives, we assess it, we audit what we do already, we use the curriculum as our starting point, adapt it and adopt it into the classroom amongst the things that we do well already, checking on the things that we need to improve on. But keeping in mind that our children are growing, we're growing young adults, and we use the curriculum as a context to do that in. So pedagogy and the way we treat our children in relationships is paramount for us here at Carramar Primary. One of our really important emphases is the quality of the work being done in the classroom. To ensure that, we need to get into the classrooms and see what's going on. So at our school we have curriculum leaders. These wonderful teachers who have taken on an extra role, have a time allocation to do so, who really get their heads around the content of that curriculum, work with consultants in making sure they understand the curriculum, and then they get into the classrooms and they work with staff on an individual basis and on a year level basis on using things like performers, using things like planning documents, certainly making sure that learning intentions, assessments and reflection of learning is happening, all with the intent to improve teaching and learning.
Throughout this period of change, I think it's really imperative actually that we establish a foundation of trust within our school so that the work that teachers have already done has been honoured, and then my role as curriculum leader is to help teachers to see what needs to be changed or adapted or slightly or added in response to our new Australian curriculum. We've been looking at historical narrative in our English work, tying it in with our work in history, and looking at pre-Federation. So our learning target this morning is how do we understand character in narrative? In order to manage the requirements of the Australian curriculum, it's important that we integrate our learning areas. So in guided reading currently, we're unpacking how authors help us to understand characters. That's going to fit into our focus in English on the historical narrative text type, which the students will write an extract describing a character as their main assessment piece. In history, we're looking at Australia's journey towards federation and becoming a democracy. So we've read a class novel which contrasts our system of government, and at the same time we're using that novel as our vehicle for learning about how authors give us idea about character through the skill of inference. So that is the skill that we're focusing on in our guided reading groups. Using the design strand of the technology learning area, I created an authentic task which involved the students finding a chair that was on the verge and then breathing new life into it. So our project was called From Junk to Just Gorgeous, and the kids developed their own chair design. We assessed that against criteria and the students voted on their top 8 chairs. We then created that chair and brought it to life.
We have a culture here at St Stephens where we encourage our teachers to take risks, we encourage our students to take risks, and so, for instance, our Year 1 teachers have set up their own little gardens outside. Our whole idea is have a go and let's see what happens, and the children's interests then is created. It's a community because our parents come in and help as well, so it's putting that all together.
In our professional development, we're going to be looking at geography teaching, upskilling our teachers, training them in how to teach the geography skills and the content and what's particular for their year level. Once the PD is in place, once staff are comfortable with the content and the skills that they need to be able to deliver the curriculum, then we'll look at the achievement standard for geography. At the moment, there's not a lot of work samples out there, there's not a lot of information about how we would grade a particular piece of work at which level, so a lot of it's down to professional judgment, so we will be looking forward to more information coming out about that. The lesson that I delivered this afternoon to the children was primarily a geography focus. We had a literacy component in there, speaking and listening component, as well as a technology focus where we were using the iPads to research and gather information. Part of the idea for the comparison actually came from the content descriptors, because part of what the geography curriculum asks of Year 3s is to compare the similarities and differences between a country that they're studying and their own lives. So that was very purposeful for the task. The differentiation that I employed in that lesson was the children were working in mixed ability pairs for the large part. They had an iPad between them, and those children who needed the text to be larger so they could read it at a slower pace could do that. They were also bouncing ideas off each other.
The first phase of the curriculum to come in was embraced enthusiastically. Maths, English, science, humanities and the social sciences were fantastic. Second phase is proving to be a dilemma in time schedules. We cannot seem to break up little blocks in a primary school and assess a certain time area for a subject. So we'll have to get more creative in how we do that.
Part of introducing the Australian curriculum has meant looking at our timetable and how we structure a timetable, and part of that is actually trying to allocate teachers time to plan together. So having joint dot times, duties other than teaching, so that it's a seamless progress between both classes. And that also then involves your curriculum leaders coming in and assisting them in their planning time. One of the things that's probably surprised us is that teachers, even though they used to plan together before, they are now more intent on what they're planning.
At Carramar Primary, we believe literacy underpins all subject areas. So it becomes a little more easy to adapt all the different areas into one time schedule if you understand that literacy should be part of all your learning areas. If you separate it out as one subject area, you might run out of time, certainly run out of subject time and time in your day to get it all done. So integration would be the key to how to apply this phase 2 in the future. Not that we've got this right yet. So we're certainly starting to work on technology. We're really embracing physical education and health. We are at a dilemma with the second part of the social sciences, and certainly with technology and how to make that a standalone. As an integrated subject, fantastic. Very difficult to implement that as a standalone at this stage.
I think for the Australian curriculum being web-based is for teachers who are IT savvy, it's been really good. Part of our role as leadership is making sure all our teachers are IT savvy and giving them the time to be able to upskill on where to find things, what to do, and who to go to when they don't know what to do. As we come into the next phase of implementing the Australian curriculum, we may not necessarily be able to have a curriculum leader that will take up that new phase, but what we would like to do is to be able to appoint a champion, someone who's really passionate about that area to take on that particular part of the Australian curriculum.
With humanities and social science, a lot of the general capabilities automatically breathe into humanities anyway. You automatically cover literacy in all of your research. Numeracy is there with your data analysis. Critical and creative thinking is a part of researching and finding out information and solving problems, and ethics and social behaviour is in there as well when you're examining famous people in history and how they behaved and how they acted and what was the consequence of their actions. So I think, although you do have to be purposeful about it, I think there's an automatic sort of, how can I put it, an automatic way in which those general capabilities just infuse into humanities naturally.
Before the Australian curriculum, in my classroom, I've always had a passion for poetry, so I did a lot of work on poetry. However, with the Australian curriculum and my role as curriculum leader, it's become evident that we as schools need to develop a scope and sequence of text types in particular, so that people like me don't keep doing more poetry than perhaps what we should be allowed to do under the new curriculum. So I've had to let go just a little bit But in Year 6 we do have ballads, so I can get a smidge of poetry in.
At our school, we have a strategic intent, and our main focus is to change the world one at a time. To do that takes more than a curriculum. The curriculum is, for instance, we talk about it being the dance floor and the teacher navigating the child across that dance floor. The curriculum is the context, the teacher is the leader, the guider, the child is growing to become a responsible citizen, to change the world and make a difference. So curriculum would be simply the dance floor on which we move around and navigate our students to grow. And as such, it changes and it's dynamic, and it should change to meet the needs of our growing society and the children of today. And hopefully in that way, curriculum will meet the needs of our students changing the world.